So I hear QuickSlide has added a new vehicle to your fleet.
Yeah, I mean, let's not make it sound too much more exciting than it actually is. These are just
So
they're ongoing investments that have to happen. We appreciate that a vehicle only has a certain life cycle, and in our case, we buy it, and we do buy all of our vehicles outright rather than leasing, just because there's capital benefit to doing it that way. We get them warranted for 5 years, or they come with a service plan for 5 years and maintenance and so on and so forth. We try and run them a couple of years after that, but pretty much every 7 years we'll change them because that's when they start to get troublesome.
Mhm.
Some regulations change. We do quite a few deliveries into London. London's getting tighter and tighter on its control of emissions and so on and so forth. So we rotate these things out on a 7 year cycle. And the thing is, the business isn't changing in the way in which it delivers goods and products. Strange enough, that's one of the things that, whilst there is improvement and there is a vast amount of technological improvement in the way in which we operate transport, versus even sort of 4 or 5 years ago when it was all very manual. Now it's all fully automated. The vehicles and the drivers and the delivery processes are pretty much the same, and there's a few reasons why that is. We would, and we do think we could do things differently, but the site that we operate on, which we're not in the market for changing, doesn't really allow us to operate any differently, because we think we could run some Arctics and do things a bit cleverer and so on and so forth, but we just haven't got the space for it. We just don't have the space. So it's pretty much more of the same when it comes to wagons, but it is nice to get a new vehicle in, because this is what our drivers spend a vast amount of the time in. Remember,
It's their office.
There's 168 hours in a week, and they probably spend 60 of those, or whatever it might be, 50 of them, no, even more, because they're sleeping in them. So put it this way, a lot of hours in a vehicle. So we want to make sure they've got the best spec'd as they want it within reason, but all the extra space they can get, and extra this and a bigger one of these, and we try and do all of that because we can, and because it's nice, and because these guys, they deserve it. They're the ambassadors to our business, really. They're the faces the customers see most often, really. So having the best equipment we can possibly give them, and it pretty much is. We're not buying substandard stuff here, all brand new, all top spec. So we're not cutting corners. It's nice to kind of hand those things over.
So how do you, is there a routine? Is it just whoever driving the vehicle and that one gets upgraded, it's just their time? Or do you have to spin the wheel and say, well, you get the new one?
No, it's pretty much, that's their time, because it all comes round at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
If that
They all
makes
get
sense.
to it, so
it's just on a lengthy cycle. But also, I think drivers get quite protective of their own vehicle. When it's theirs, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If they're being shared, then
there's not a lot of sharing, which is fine.
Nice.
But you can, different drivers operate in different ways. But I think when it's theirs, it's theirs, and our responsibility in that process is to make sure that we give them the best we can give them, because it's a representation of the business, really. We want to make sure that they're well looked after and happy, and we're doing everything we can do for them.
So how many trucks do you have now?
I want to say we've got 10 18 tonners,
Right.
which it doesn't sound like a lot, and really it's not a huge amount when you look at maybe even some other customers, other companies. But we because we're based in the north, but we deliver a lot of what we do sort of below the M25, as it were, so to the southeast and to the southwest and so on and so forth. That's the type of vehicle that best suits us. It's not too big, i.e. Arctic size, so it's just about manageable in some tighter areas, but it accommodates overnights, and that's just how the business model has been ever since I've been here. It's just how we worked and operated. But I guess you got to go to where your customers are. And we've looked at alternative options like delivery hubs, but so
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
looked at it, but realistically, the numbers just don't really work. Um, and the Arctic thing was probably the thing that made the most amount of sense. But yeah, we are where we are, and I can't really see the delivery model changing in the near future.
How do the trucks fit in with your green initiative?
Well, I guess there's only so much we can physically do to the vehicles. We buy sensibly sized engines, we buy the most efficient vehicles. So, obviously, when we spec them, we're buying the newest technology, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. But we can't, other than us move ourselves closer to our customers and travel less that way, there isn't a huge amount we can do regarding vehicle emissions,
Hmm.
but there are some things we can do. So if we buy the best vehicle, the most efficient vehicles, and they're not overladen and so on and so forth, and we're maximizing the volume of goods we get on there to minimize the volume of runs we're doing. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Then it comes down to how efficient your runs are. Now, we have some core practices in already. So we try and group deliveries where we can do. So if a customer might regularly order things every week, for example, but it doesn't mean they're fitting them every week. So we may have a discussion with a customer to say, well, look, can we bring these 3 weeks worth of deliveries to you on, week commencing the 22nd or whatever? And they'll go, yeah, great, we'll do that. So we can consolidate deliveries together to maximize the capacity on the vehicle, and to ensure that we're not covering miles needlessly,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. I mentioned earlier on about our sort of technological advancements when it comes to deliveries. So we're just putting the final touches. I can't say it's live because it's not live, but we've written, because we have our own developers that write code and do all the fancy stuff that I have no idea how any of it works. I just tell them, I just say, this is what I want to happen, and they go, yeah, okay, and it happens.
Nice.
But they've written some back end API links into the TomTom stuff. So we have been working with TomTom.
Wow.
So it means we're a bit cleverer in terms of making our runs as absolutely efficient as possible.
Yeah.
So previously we would put our runs together manually, but manually means you've got people that know every road in the country pretty much. They know where they can get to. They know where traffic. You're
Yes.
going off experience. But this is now making it, you know, automated, as it were. So we're just putting the touches on that. But our runs are pretty efficient anyway.
Yeah.
We track. I get a weekly sort of flash update from our transport manager, which reports on a few core metrics, and it'll be, this is our MPG per vehicle, this is our overall, this is the driver's stats and league table, so we can see where there's harsh braking, and we can see all of that, and we'll be proactive with the drivers, say, look, this we need to do a bit of work here, or that could be a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So it's not like we don't look at it, and we produce the data so we can do something about the data. But it's one of those bugbears for me, because I know that our biggest pretty much our biggest carbon output is going to be our vehicles, but I can't really change what our vehicles are. And we are getting to the point where you are, eking out and wringing out as much efficiency as possible from your transport system. But it isn't feasible to just move somewhere else, because the business is made up by its staff, and it's just the one thing we can't ever compromise on. Because if we weren't here, we wouldn't have the people, and it just don't work.
So on that note, do you have any plans to acquire more vehicles?
Well, we never actively try to add more vehicles when we don't need them. I think our vehicle capacity now should easily allow us to deliver 36 million pound, maybe slightly more, and we're not turning over that. We plan to turn over that sort of this year-ish, but I don't think we need to right now. So I think we're pretty settled. We'll just continue rotating them through where we can do, but I don't think there's any need for additional right now.
So on my way over, all the plates on the vehicles had very particular, typical double glazing letters. What's that about?
Do you know what? It was just something that we did ages ago. I think it was an idea between sort of me and Claire, who's our commercial director. We just thought, look, for the sake of 250 quid, it's nice to have them all uniform. In hindsight, it's actually quite nice to have a vehicle with a 24 number plate on it.
Yeah.
So, but it's just kind of one of the things we did, maybe, genuinely sort of 10 years ago, and it's kind of been that way ever since. So we just continue it on.
No, I like it. I like it. People notice.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it?
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben.
Yep, pleasure.